Yeah.
All right, there we are. So we are here for the mentoring program Q&A.
All right. So should I just I'll just roll into it here because we were just starting, basically saying that what is this? It's a combination of getting information and noticing what was happening in the community, and then figuring out how we could nurture that thing that was going on. We did this with practice groups, and now we're doing it with mentoring as well. And so you could almost say that is the essence of the program, right? That's how it all started, was to notice there's a community of people. There's the people who would like to mentor and people who would like to be mentored, or what we call mentees. And that's what this is. This is our contribution to helping that community exist and thrive inside the course, and keep the integrity as well, and keep the, when I say the integrity, it means we're really want to create something that's a power with, that's self-led, self-managed, self-organized, and we simply facilitate. And so that's what we're trying to do. We are adding an educational element to it, right? So that we can help people not have to reinvent the wheel. If somebody wants to be a mentor, it isn't. Wouldn't it be nice if you could work with people and chat with people and get training by people who've already done this and learn what they know, instead of having to go through it all over again. So that's a big part of this too. If you want to be a mentor, we've created that avenue, which does include having to do a certificate of completion, which we've talked about before. But that was kind of how we could do it. We could use an observation, which is that I have completed the course before, or the people in here have completed the course before, and that they're interested in helping people who haven't done the course before, or would just like to get help in general, and we could connect them. We could help them be good at what they're doing, right? We could offer help in that regard. We can help by connecting experienced people to new people, and sharing the wisdom in the community that way. And so I think that's it. I mean, and just in the big picture of it all. And I guess there is one other aspect, and that is that I'd like to talk about and then hand it over to Antonio. And that is, there's what I call the big picture of mentoring when it comes to the work in the compassion course, and to nonviolent communication in general, which is that we, all of us, go through these, at least from what I can tell, go through these stages, and I've found being aware of these stages, or a framework, it's a way to look at it, is really helpful from an educational perspective, and more than an educational perspective, a really life integrating perspective. And so those stages are, and we probably all remember them for ourselves, or a lot of them, is that first you heard about this thing, whether it was nonviolent communication, or whether it was the compassion course, or this discovery weekend that somebody was doing. But we heard about this thing, and this thing really impressed our friend, really made a difference for them. And we're like, well, what is that? What are you talking about? Well, there's this thing, and it just helps us get along, and it was just amazing. And I don't even know how to say it, but we hear about it, right? And then we go, okay. And then we find out about it. And then we go, oh, this is what they were talking about. And so that's another whole stage, right? Like, it's very important that when you're trying to find out what it is they're talking about, that's a clear message. So there's that stage, and all of these are represented in the course. And so it's like, oh, okay. So there's this body of knowledge. There's this guy, Marshall Rosenberg. There's this thing called needs. And then we actually start to learn it. We learn that needs exist. We learn that feelings exist. We learn to say them, to articulate them, to identify them in our bodies, in ourselves, in each other. And we start to gain what I call the experience or the journey into the parallel universe of feelings and needs, which is, you could almost say, is an overlay of life all around us. And so that's what we're trying to do here, is first be able to see that parallel universe, to see feelings and needs, to know what they are and say, I know what anxiety is. I know what my need for learning is. I know what my need for growth is. I feel that, I understand it. And so that's where we start to get this kind of next level of understanding. And then comes the next thing, which is our relationship to these things that we just discovered, feelings and needs. And then, so there's this whole other thing like, oh my goodness, now that I know what they are, I'm now dealing with what I was told my whole life about them, or the habits that I have been kind of following without realizing about this. So what happens is we start to see this distinction between what we could call our new conscious self and our habitual self. And we start to understand the relationship between the two of them. And we end up, that's when we really start moving into the practice of nonviolent communication, or whatever you want to call it, needs awareness, needs-based relating. But it's based on this idea that we can first have to see those things. We have to be able to understand what they are, have a working relationship with them. Then we can start to really move. That's when you could say we've developed an empathic view of ourselves and of other people, and that we have that skill set built. Once we're there, then we do the next thing. We start utilizing this skill that we've been developing and utilizing it in life. We utilize it in ways that we used to function habitually. We now have in some instances, we have new ways of doing it, right? We have new ways of apologizing. We have new ways of saying no. We have new ways of asking people for help. So all these things, but they're all based, doing these things in this awareness of feelings and needs. And that's why the course just keeps going back to it over and over again. Because look, once the foundation leaves, it doesn't matter what you built up above. So it is very foundation oriented. And it's, as a mentor, I would want to really be able to see these things. Because if somebody's having a problem in week 20, it could be because they missed something in week 10. And there's a real inflection point for everybody who's in the course, which is when we move into what I call really moving into that parallel universe, is when we move into the act of empathy, the actual act of giving and receiving, saying the needs words, understanding what they are, and having interactions now, in this realm. That is a very important part. As a mentor, I think it's really important. Kathan, back me up here or not, but or Doreen. Actually, Antonio's everybody here is mentored, but it's really important, and it's where we can be so helpful for people, is to help them see how important this is, and then be able to make that uncomfortable move into relating to somebody in a way I've never done before in my life. And so that's something, if we're aware of it, how cool is that? We can be there when those moments happen. And so that's something that we want to look at. And the other thing I just want to mention is mentoring in a community of alongside a community of mentors is way different than being there all out there on your own. This is a whole group of people. And so, I mean, it's just the more people that are involved in something, the better it gets, as it turns out. So that is also built into this too. So what we're really doing is trying to maximize everybody's possibility here of success in doing this. And again, this big picture, I think, really makes a big difference. And it's that, again, discovering, starting to understand, have a relationship with, be able to interact in the realm of, start to make decisions in the realm of, and it just grows and grows as an actually integrated part of our lives. And I'm just not happy unless you get there. Like if somebody finds out about this and they can't get there where they're using it in their lives, I'm kind of bummed out, because that's where that's where all the beauty lies. And so yeah, so again, that's all part of what we're up to here. It's kind of, kind of our value system, you could say. So all right, any questions about anything I said, or we're good, or was there something in we're good? Yes, we're moving on. All right, so Antonio, you want to jump in? And so we've got some visuals to give you here so that you can take in what all we're trying to do here. This is the very practical version of what I've been talking about.
I think we'll break down more. I think we'll break down different parts and different aspects of the mentoring program, which, by the way, I mean, this has been aided and supported by the community. One thing that's really interesting is that as the mentoring program continues growing, it does so, and it becomes more effective, and it becomes more clear with the help of the community, which is both parts, the mentees who are receiving mentoring and the mentors who are doing the mentoring. And so, well, I'll start going through some of the slides here.
Before, just to add to that, there are groups of mentors that get together without us, not official meetings or anything, but mentors have naturally found one another, just like practice group leaders have naturally, or facilitators have found one another. So there are practice groups of practice group facilitators, and there may be practice groups of mentors, right? Like, so you could join a mentor practice group as well, or you could even create one if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And so I just want to put that out there, that that's an important kind of thing that we want to have happening here, which is happening. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, I think like we have a framework here of how to provide support. And beyond that, I think the thing that's really awesome, just like Tom said, I mean, the community has brought itself together beyond us bringing them together on a monthly basis. And I think that that's something worth noting. There's a group, there could be 2 groups, there could be 3 groups of mentors who meet together to continue practicing and helping each other. I think that's been kind of like at the core of the course, the community really supporting itself. So so just jumping through some of these points here on the PowerPoint here. I know Tom will jump in here to talk a little bit about this and run through it, but in general,
well, I think we kind of covered this, right?
Right. Yeah. In general, this is, in a way, you could think of this, when you look at this big picture of mentoring, this is kind of like how and where you're trying to guide people through, in terms of like, now, one thing that's interesting, doesn't mean if somebody doesn't arrive, you know, to be able to have empathy for other people, it doesn't mean that they failed or that even you failed. The course is an ongoing, right. This type of work is an ongoing process. It's ongoing, it's life work. And so I think I wanted to just put that out there, because as I'm looking at this big picture of mentoring, it's like, what if I'm not able to, as a mentor, help the mentee deepen their relationship to their needs? Right. And that could show up in different forms. And so I think I really want to bring it back to like, there's two things, and I think Tom said it. The course is doing the work, meaning you as a mentor are not necessarily doing the training, which I think may be helping you to have less stress about, what am I going to teach this person? It's really maybe sometimes reiterating and revisiting and rediscussing, or even rereading a concept from the course itself to help somebody remember what we're up to here. So there's that part. And then the other part is, so part one, I think, is like the course is there to do the training. Part two is you're there to just help with the reinforcement, to help kind of like course correct, to bring the person back to having an understanding of feelings and needs, of being able to connect to their own, being able to connect to other people's feelings and needs. But it's not something that we're not saying you have to get through these, 5 bullet points here, and get your mentee to get to that place. Right. This is life work. That's, like I said earlier, it's not something that we're just going to like take the course and be able to get all of this under our belts. Anything else there, Tom? Before we?
No, I like what you're saying. I mean, it is cool that the fact that it's a course is that we're all working with the same material. So it's easier to help people because they're working with the same material that you are.
Yeah.
And that's true throughout the whole community, not just with your mentor, but or everybody in the course is in the same place at the same time. And same place in the course. And there are different places in their integration, which again just helps the whole thing, grow into the future.
Yeah.
That's what this is, right? This is just helping.
Yeah.
That's what we're here talking about, right? How we can just help move this into the future.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but
I think, I think that's the part that I really also love is like, well, I think just to jump into the next one also, in terms of what is the mentoring community, it consists of people who are in the compassion course currently, meaning, right, when the course begins in June 2023, those are people in the community as well. If you are a mentor, you are part of the community. And so what we're trying to do is connect people who are in the course to mentors. And of course, one of the things that we are asking for in order to become a mentor is that you have a certificate of completion. And that will become clear in May when we start issuing certificate of completions, like, if you're eligible for that or not. So let's see. Okay.
Well, just to be clear on that, right?
Yeah.
The certificate of completion needs, if you're going to be an up and running mentor in the program, you have to have done that, which means you did like 98% of the course, did the exercises every week, et cetera. And so the certificate of completion, what that does is it tells everybody that you did it. And we're trying to stay away from the evaluation model. So we're not saying you did it well. And we're not saying you did it poorly. We're just saying that you did it. And if you did it, well, let's work with that. And then the idea is to provide enough information, for example, in the directories, so that, yes, I know you did the course, but also I can sense, for example, you could have, you could tell people what your experience is as well. in the course. So we're trying to make it kind of the whole communication driven by observations. What years did you take the course? Do you have a COC, which means, yes, one of those years, I did every exercise in the course, right? So again, more observations. Or if we also have special trainings in the course, which also are more observations. Yes, I did the anger training. I did the empathy one-on-one training this year, that year. So we're collecting observations, and that way people can make decisions without it being power over, right? Just to be a power with community. If we have enough information and everybody can see it, then we're all grown-ups here and we can make our own choices. So that's a big piece of how we're, earlier when I was just trying to talk about how we're trying to make everything congruent with what it is we're teaching. And so that's what the certificate of completion kind of came from, really.
Yeah.
Making sure we had some observation, that we had some level that people could relate to somebody else's experience, right? Without it being an evaluation, just being, yes, they did it.
So in terms of, I'm going to jump more into this, but the part of what we're going to talk about soon is, what are you agreeing to as a mentor? We are going to ask, and this is something that we will support you in. I know that the current mentor community, we've been having, active conversations about this, but, the point is for the mentor and the mentee to respect the sequence and follow, the course in chronological order as it rolls out every week. Look, I think the course, if I can speak to it in a way, it was designed to go from, very foundational concepts to more challenging, and kind of sometimes harder concepts when we get into working on triggers and anger, and dealing with intensity and all that stuff. And so, right, it's like, it's sometimes, if you can imagine, a mentee might say, like, I just started the course and I want to work on anger. So part of what we're going to be doing is supporting mentors, basically, on, like, well, what do we do in a situation like that? And how do we bring the conversation back to follow the sequence? And why do we want to follow the sequence? Because, right, there's a lot of why we want to follow the sequence. But in general, like, the idea is, as a mentor, you're there to, like I said, maybe just do the reinforcement of where the course is at, help somebody deepen the understanding of that course week, deepen their understanding of why we're talking about needs so often and so much, why we're talking about empathy buddies, and empathy being such a core aspect of our work here, right? Like, as a mentor, you are, in a way, kind of like, you could say, like, an example for the mentee of how to deepen some level of integration in the course with these concepts that we're talking about here. And we're going to talk about this, like how participants can find mentors. We'll talk about the directory. How does it work? What are mentors agreeing to? Like, what are you getting yourselves involved in here? So every first Monday of the month at 12 p.m. Eastern time, we have a mentors conference. And the conference, that's where we'll talk about things like I just talked about. Like, what if we have a situation with a mentee? How can we also give a little bit of a preview of the upcoming weeks. And you, by the way, you do have access to preview all the upcoming weeks in the course. We have that in the mentors resource page. You can look at all of the weeks if you wanted to get ready. to understand like how, how am I going to address this with my mentee? In the conference, we do Q&A, we do troubleshooting, like I was just saying, and yeah,
Yeah.
we do a little bit of
Could I
previewing
could
of
I just
upcoming
chime
weeks.
in for a sec?
Yep.
I just want to, the last thing we were talking about in terms of following the sequence of the course. Um, I think you
Yeah.
folks have done it right. You'll notice that throughout the course, I make recommendations to go back, right? It's part of the course. Part of doing the course is going back into the course, in fact. Sometimes, and you may have seen, I'll list, week 4, week 7, week 12, whatever, to pay attention to those when you're up here in week 40. So that as a mentor, I mean, I'm giving you a nice little map of as best I can, and as a participant, right, as to what is all connected, what are the basic skills that are connected to this more advanced thing that we're doing. And so we're that said, what we're asking is, don't go into the future, because we've already got the past. That's cool, all part of what we're doing, in fact, right? Because it's a building process. But once you jump into the future and break the sequence, experience, I can tell you, is that it can break down. The whole reason the course was written in the order it is because each block fits on top of the one underneath it, and it pretty much, the whole idea is to build a sustainable practice, right? And so that's why we ask that you go back in time all you need to, but it doesn't necessarily help to go into the future and to break that down.
Yeah. Cool. So, this is some of like, how does it work? What's included in the mentoring program? The three of us, Tom, Doreen, and myself will be on the conferences. We are also happy to answer questions outside of the conferences. As you may know, you can reach us through various forms of communication. Our preference is, of course, email, and we will get back to you. And so, right, there's right, it's like there's so many ways to get in touch with us, really, is what I'm trying to say. The other thing, you can talk to the other mentors in the Telegram group, which is a messaging app, by the way, kind of like WhatsApp. Some people just prefer it. It might be a little bit more private. So there's a Telegram group. You will have access to that. That's how you can communicate with other mentors. We don't necessarily, I think, and like people have asked us, like, can you share email addresses? We have never like asked for permission to share email addresses. And so this is kind of like, a workaround of that. You still get to contact people. As a matter of fact, the way that there's like this mentoring group that got together, and the way that they got together is by joining the Telegram group, and people got each other's contact information, and they were able to say, hey, how about we communicate over email? But that's how you can also do that, by the way. You are listed. You can list yourself, I should say, in the mentoring directory. And that's how participants are going to find you. Like, current participants in the course are going to have access to the mentor directory. That's where you can list your name, your contact information, your rate, like, pricing, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And where you're located, because it might help somebody find you in the directory, and it might be a good fit. It might be a good match if you're in the same time zone as them. There's a mentors resource page. That's where you can find certain things like feelings and needs handouts. There's the link to all the course weeks, by the way, are in the mentors resource page, and there's other resources in there as well, by the way. We'll also send you, as you probably know, a follow-up email after each mentoring conference, and any other material. Sometimes, for example, recently, I think last conference we did an exercise, and I I cut out just a section of the exercise so that people if they wanted to use that in their session, they could use that. So we will put that into the follow-up email. And then let's jump into agreements. What are you agreeing to as a mentor? So the first thing, do you have a certificate of completion? I'll zoom in a little bit here. Right. We're asking you to have this COC. And by the way, even if you are expected to receive it because you know that you have completed, and you're on your way to completing all the work, you can list yourself in the COC. Another thing regarding the COC, we do have an extension, meaning like if you're going to finish in, let's say you're off by like a couple of weeks, I think we have an extension for you to complete the COC. That might be in July. When you're done, meaning when you have done all the work that we have asked you to do, that's when you would be able to list yourself into the directory. So in the registration form, we ask, have you received your COC or do you expect to receive your COC, your certificate of completion? You can say yes. So once you do have your COC, that's when you can list yourself into the directory. So mentor agrees to mentor people currently registered in the course.
Well, you have to be in the mentoring program also. So
right,
not
exactly.
just have a COC.
Well, so the agreement is, this is the agreement of what you are going to agree to in the mentoring program. Again, you're just going to be working with people who are currently registered in the course. You're not going to be, right. It's not like getting outside people. I think Martha, you were talking about that of like, yeah, I think it's cool. Look, I mean, if you want to, unofficially, right, mentor people, look, I mean, that's been happening and we don't have any problem with that. Right. That's in a way, that's how we got the information that sometimes people want a little bit more support. And this is how we're supporting people who want to be mentors. And so, right, we're kind of explaining here that if you do this, on your own and do it with people outside of the course, specifically people who are not in the course, then it could really impact,
Yeah. Do you have the link, Antonio, to that? You can put it in the chat into the agreement. Don't we have that?
I don't have it handy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can get it. I know we have it on the website.
So, so that's the second part of the agreement. Third part of the agreement. This is where, yes, if you want to charge a fee, that's, in a way, hopefully you could possibly, in a big view of things, you could maybe make some money, some nice money from mentoring. Right. It's a way to have some energy exchange for your work. And so this is something that you can agree to with your mentee as to like how long is a session and what are you going to charge for them and how often are you going to meet with them, right? We like to say whatever works in terms of like, what is it that you're going to agree to with your mentee? That's something that the two of you in a way can work out. And by the way, it doesn't have to be two of you. It could be that you're mentoring possibly 2 to 3 people. And there could be a fee for that. And why would you mentor 2 to 3 people? Well, maybe they're trying to work together as empathy buddies. Maybe they're friends, right? And just to be clear, sometimes this is maybe come up in the past. If there's a, just put it out there very clearly and very explicit. Sometimes people might be coming to get mentoring because they're in a very dire situation. Like it could be a couple. And they're looking to mentoring to help save them. And that is so big that I cannot imagine putting myself in such a circumstance and being able to help people who are in such a critical state. It would really be almost like it really wouldn't do it. The course really is not going to be able to serve such a big thing at that time. In instances like that, like if somebody's coming with a big situation, with a Super Bowl situation, then honestly, sometimes my best advice is going to be that it might be best for me to be able to help one person at a time, because this might be, for me, the most effective thing that I can do right now is help, one person. But the course in a way might not be the place for somebody to get help if they're in a Super Bowl situation. The course is there to help practice and understand the concepts of compassionate living and compassionate thinking. But it might not be there to help people who are in super dire situations.
Yeah, if I just, it's
Please.
the distinction is actually pretty clear. One is education and the other one is application. And if somebody's coming to you in a, like Antonio said, in a dire situation, that's like saying, I have appendicitis and I'm taking a surgery class now. You're not going to be able to learn surgery fast enough to help you with your problem, right? And that's basically what Antonio's, I'm just kind of restating what he said, and that is, you can't, well, we call it the Super Bowl, right? Like if you get into a really intense situation, like something that's super difficult very early on, you just simply can't deal with it. It's not possible. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's super important for us to know what's what. And again, that's why we write all these agreements, right? We don't have rules, but we have agreements for clarity so that we can all make decisions together and again, have power with.
Yeah. And I think that this speaks into the fourth point of the agreements here of like following the course, the curriculum of the course. I think we are explaining it very clearly here that the course was written this way for a reason. And we're explaining the reasons here. It's like, to keep effectiveness in the course, it helps us to follow that curriculum. And so, like Tom said, as opposed to sometimes jumping forward, it could be a really big jump. But we already know what we just went through. So sometimes being able to revisit previous steps might be a little bit more helpful and a little bit more effective rather than jumping ahead. So that's that point. 5 talks about, again, the difference between, you're not necessarily doing the teaching or the training because the course does that. And so that responsibility is already off of your shoulders. Right. We even do that through the monthly conferences in the compassion course. But the purpose of mentoring is to, like we're saying here, clarify and practice the content and exercises and help apply to the mentee's own life. So hopefully that spells it out a little bit more. I think, I can imagine, and I know that in my past experience with doing one-on-one sessions with people, it's really, I love being able to hear the connections that people are able to make when somebody says, and they come to the one-on-one session and they say, that whole thing about striking while the iron is cold, that shows up in the course. That was really helpful because I got into this big argument with my sister. And normally I want to argue my point when I'm in the argument with my sister, and I realize it's probably best to not do that at that time. Right? It's probably better for me to to engage at a time when I'm a little bit less, hot. So that's another kind of like idea of what could happen on these on the conferences one-on-one with your mentee. So and I got your note, Tom. Thank you. So and conversely, if I get the feedback from a mentee and they say, I keep thinking that I should be responsible for my partner's feelings because I make them feel bad. As a mentor, I might want to, I could give it a little bit of empathy and say, look, I imagine you really care, You care a lot in this instance. This is your partner, and this is someone who you really, I imagine, love and care about. And one thing that I want to maybe reiterate is going back to week 3 or 4, where we talk about, and Doreen just put the mentoring agreement into the chat. Thank you, Doreen. So I could say I want to go back to revisit week 3 or 4, where we talk about shouldn't thinking. And so, right, it's a way for us to just keep referring back to the course. All right, we talked about the conferences. That's here, number 6. Number 7, we just talked about this. I want to be clear, this is not therapy. We put that here. I think that's big.
Well, that's where, yeah, we were just talking about that, right?
Right. Not counseling or advising on personal matters. And we just talked about that. Okay, we talked about working on the live trainings if you attended them. Telegram group. And we give you access to the mentor resource page.
Okay.
This is maybe what a typical mentoring session outline might look like. Everybody joins, right? Do some check-ins, feelings and needs check-ins, maybe some celebrations, some mornings. The second check-in is asking questions about the course content. How's it going with the past 2 weeks since we met? Reviewing the exercises. Maybe this is where you get some clarity as to where the mentee is with the course content. And you practice maybe 1, maybe 2 exercises from the compassion course. And this is something that maybe the mentee brings you an exercise that they want to work on. Maybe you suggest an exercise to work on together. And then you can also suggest some homework, like make sure you keep a judgment journal, make sure you keep a feelings and needs journal, things like that. Checkouts, just some feelings and needs. How did it go for you? What could have worked better? And then this is maybe an agreement that you want to have with your mentee.
So we can get, I believe we can get copies of all this, right, to everybody. Didn't we have, well, the agreement's up now. That's
this
important.
is, yeah, and this agreement is also a typical mentoring agreement is on the resources page.
Right,
Yes.
that's what I was thinking. And a lot of this is on the resources page.
Yeah.
The typical outline. So you don't have to memorize everything right now.
Exactly.
You just need to know it exists.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of like that. I do have a pretty hard stop. I think we're wrapped, but I wanted to, did you have anything else, Antonio, to say?
That's it.
Okay, so I just want to see if there are any questions. And remember, you have Kath Ann here also as a witness. No, and so yeah, just want to open up to any questions that you have, or you may have, and see if we can't help you out with the answers.
Yes, I'd just like to clarify something.
Okay.
So if you're going to mentor each year you'd like us to join the compassion course again. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Marty, you had something?
I was just going to say, and part of that is because we have conferences, the anger and the empathy conferences. So there's something that's a little bit
Oh yeah, there's a
different
whole
here.
program that goes with it.
And
but
things, I say, I take the compassion course again and again because what changes from year to year is not the course so much, but me.
Yeah. Okay, Marty, you had something?
Yeah, I understand that, you know, the fee is totally open, or well, relatively open, and it's up to us and our mentees to figure out what works for us. But I would like to get a sense from those who have experience what would be a realistic fee. And what I'm thinking about is that the people I have seen in this course, many people don't have tremendous financial resources. Lots of people come to this course. The course is very affordable as is, I think. It's my assessment of it. So, you know, I pay like $80
Yeah.
or something a year, then if I also would have to pay $40 for a mentoring session, which would be on the low end of what is suggested.
Actually, yeah.
So yeah, so that's where I'm coming from.
I'd like
what works?
Yes, I'd like to address that. Basically, if you look, let's say I've never mentored before, but I did the COC and I'm hanging out my shingle. You know what I'm going to charge? Nothing. If I've never mentored before, I'm charging you absolutely nothing. Just like you can go get a free haircut. That's how they learn to cut hair. And so if I'm going to say, look, I'm trying to be a mentor. I'm supported by this program. I'd like to give it a go. Nice low threshold of entry. It's beautiful. And if you thrive as a mentor, if you get better and better at it, now we'll start to charge some money. And that's how the course started, by the way. This course was absolutely free the first time it was put out. And then as the course got better and we added more things to it and it became more useful, it became a little bit more expensive, but still, I mean, we have 2,000 people in the course. So if we can keep that volume, we'll be able to keep we'll keep the prices down and the services up. So yeah, so the idea is if you look at the community as a whole, like, I'd love to join a practice group, I have no money. There are practice groups that cost no money. Or I love mentoring, but I have no money. There are mentors who will work for free. And if I say, look, maybe we could barter, we could do all sorts of things like that. So I'd like to think that the whole range is available to everybody all the time. Does that make sense, Marta? I was just.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, thank you.
I mean, but it is true. You could spend a lot of money if you had a mentor every week and you did a practice group every week and you did it. I mean, I get that. We don't get that, by the way. We don't get that money, but it's cool because look, it's the community taking care of itself. And we always have an entry fee of $0. That's always available for everybody. It's easy for us to remember the number of people who we've turned away because they didn't have money, because it's $0. And that's all we have to remember. And if that's not happening, we make it happen. We'll tweak it so that everybody's opportunity is available to them. Cool. All right. Thank you. Anybody else? I'm going to jump. I have to. I'm late for a co-scheduled conference. But are we good? We're finished. Are we good?
So maybe Kathy Ann, do you want to share anything? And Tom, if you need to go.
All right. I'm going to make somebody a host. I'm going to make Antonio a host.
I think we are.
All right. I'm going to jump, but thank you for being here. Seriously, thank you for playing. All right.
I'm happy to share a little bit or answer any questions. I can just say that for me, mentoring, I think it's like Glennie and Marta, I was kind of doing it before there was an official mentoring program. And what I appreciate about the official mentoring program is that I have a sense of support from the CCO team, that I have a sense of partnership. And I can ask them, team members, for support, or I can ask them questions about, well, I have a mentee that this is the challenge. What would you recommend? So if I need support, I have support, which I really appreciate. I appreciate the monthly conferences because that's an opportunity to hear Tom or Doreen or Antonio talk about maybe how the weekly lessons might apply in a mentoring session. And that's helpful. And what I also appreciate is what I've seen over this last year is that the team is also willing to adjust what goes on in the conferences to meet the needs of the mentors who are there and who are showing up. And so what I guess I want to say is that I imagine whatever it is that you need from the Compassion Course team to support you in mentoring, that you could probably find that support, either individually from the members or in the conferences, to help you with your mentoring sessions. So I have really enjoyed the deeper connection that I've had with the people I've mentored. Most of them that I've mentored this year have been from my practice groups. But I also have a couple people outside of my practice groups, and I have enjoyed a deeper sense of connection through the mentoring process, a deeper sense of contribution as well. And of course, my own learning and growth, because the more times I sort of reiterate or explain or offer my experience of a practice from the course, the deeper the connection is with myself. So the process of mentoring is my learning and growth, and that's probably the best part. Well, I don't know if it's the best part. The contribution's pretty great too, but together, all of that, yeah, I really have loved the mentoring journey so far. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Awesome. We'll give it another minute or so, see if there's anything else.
So the extra information about the mentoring course, it's on the resources page. Is that correct?
Yeah, so like once you are a mentor, you have access to the resource page. And that's where you would find, like I said, things like all the weeks, if you wanted to review and preview all the weeks for the course. Like all the links to all 52 weeks are in the resource page. Other handouts and exercises can also be found in the resource page. So it's another way for us to just help, with as much information as we can, that would be helpful to a mentor, is in the resource page.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the conference, this is a separate conference from the mentoring conference is separate conference.
Exactly.
good.
Yep. Separate conference. They're going to be recorded. Of course, being able to join live, it's great. But even if you are not able to join live and, you have questions and you want to send them in, we're very open to that as well. So that's another thing to hopefully remember that. Yeah, I mean, conferences are great to join live. We sometimes get to do role plays. We get to do exercises on there together. And you got the recording, and you can also email us questions ahead of time.
Awesome. And what's the fee for the mentoring program?
So it's $300, and that includes like your registration in the course. So there's nothing else to pay. It's $300.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Anything else?
Marta has a hand up.
Yeah, Marta.
I actually have a question that is unrelated to mentorship.
Sure.
So I would like to, I don't know, I can wait.
If you want to put it out
Or
there,
I
I don't
can-
think it would help. any.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or it's actually, I'm not even sure if it's a question. It's sort of a little bit of, I guess, an observation, evaluation, whatever. Looking at the Mighty Network, which I sometimes do, it looks to me that there are a small number of people who are very active,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm wondering, I was wondering if that could be kind of off-putting for people who sometimes would like to chip in. Like it feels very much like a close-knit community as opposed to for the whole group, or I mean for the whole course,
Yeah.
despite the fact that it is open for everybody. So it's an open question, and I don't know. I mean, I'm just wondering what could be done to make it more available, like really available for people. I mean, I understand that technically it's available,
Yeah.
but I don't see many people posting. I see the same people over and over and over, which is in a way great for them, but could be intimidating for others.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I think in a way, well, I mean, I think there's two things. One is, it's kind of funny because I think like seeing what's happening in the Mighty Networks forum, it's I guess it's been this way that the community, you know, kind of sets the tone. And conversely, if the tone that is there is not the one that's really supporting everybody, I mean, that in a way could be part of the conversation of what could be happening. Like, you know what I mean? Like somebody could maybe bring that point, even if you wanted to share that point, because one of the things on our end, just to maybe provide some clarity, you've seen it. We don't necessarily do the admin work or the moderation on there, you know, to not create a power dynamic, so to say. Even though, you know, what you're sharing, Marta, is happening on there, I think, in a way, yeah, I would love to, it's almost like I think what you're saying is actually worth maybe even bringing to the attention, because sometimes we might not even see what it might be appearing like on the outside. And so sometimes maybe even just bringing the attention to the forum and maybe even sharing, you know, what it might seem like could actually help bring the conversation and into a different direction, actually. So, you know, I personally am one to like, I have in the past invited people to kind of like, if somebody wants to like lead a group on the forum of, you know, let's saying like, hey, how about we create a, you know, a little chat group here for people who are mothers? How about we create a chat room here for people who are parents in general, or people who are dog lovers or pet lovers? You know, what I'm just trying to get to is like, we love leaving the power up to the community. And, you know, and I agree with what you're saying. I think sometimes maybe, you know, I know that I see it, and of course I keep my eye on it just for safety reasons, make sure, you know, nothing dangerous is happening, but it is something that I would probably love to see be different as well. Yeah.
And I remember the first year when I was at the course, this is my third. So the first year we had the Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
The second year and this year we don't have it anymore. And I know that it had a reason, but I found the Facebook group a lot more fluid, with more people chipping in and putting things out. And so I kind of like that people were already on Facebook. So many people were there already. They didn't have to join something else. So I wonder if it would make sense, again, that's a strategy question, to reestablish that for the sake of more fluid conversation and more inclusiveness.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I'll put it back on our kind of like conversation of like how to support the community, and you know, we could possibly have both things. I think that when we did the shift, I think it was because, I think there was just different voices, and you know, there's. If I remember, I think we did the shift for various reasons. One of them being that I think people were, it was, I think like 3 years ago, Facebook was just a very stimulating place. You know, different types of polarizing conversations going on there. And so we thought maybe this might help the community a little bit more, but times are different. So it might be something that we revisit. You know, I think I think when we did the shift, we got the feedback that people were like, wow, like, thanks. Right. But hey, things are different yet again. So that could change again. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
already added it to our staff meeting
Yeah.
minutes and something to talk about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Martha.
Yeah, I would like to just add too, I have noticed that, and I've tried to go in and add a couple of comments, to start something, just to try and make it different. But it's usually the same people responding constantly, so it's
Yeah.
hard to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, yeah, it's definitely something that we'll review. I mean, I think for sure. I mean, I'm aware of that, and I can imagine, for other people from the outside seeing in, yeah, it could look like something that's more not so open, really. Not so open. So yeah, well, and thank you for the feedback, everyone. All right. Anything else before we start wrapping up here? Cool.
Can I ask you, you did the mentoring program last year, is that right?
Yeah, I
Or-
think this is our second year, I think. Second year, going into the
Uh-huh.
second year. Yeah. So we did it last year.
So did you have many people attending?
In terms of how many mentors we had, I think it was about 50. I can double check, but I believe it was 50 mentors. And yeah, I mean, not everybody always regularly attended the conferences, but I think on a regular basis, we have between 20 to 25 people attending the conferences, and then some of them can't attend because of a time zone difference. So they listen to the recording, or they'll send in their questions also as the other way that they can connect with us and then listen to the recording. But yeah, it was about 50 mentors. I just pulled up the number. And like I said, about half of that joined the conferences on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. Thank you.
Can I have another question?
Yeah, please.
1 second.
Yeah.
Go on if somebody can. I can't talk right now.
Okay, no worries. Take your time.
Gosh. Okay. So the question is that I already actually paid my $300 for next year,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm anticipating that I'll be done with the COC. I mean, with the exercises. I'm on time with the Inkify postings and stuff. So when you start making available the mentor list so that I can record myself?
So the mentors can start listing themselves. Let me pull up that information. I have it pretty handy here. So if you want to start listing yourself in the directory, come on, load. I don't know. I believe it's like the first week of May. And then participants can start viewing the directory in the third week of May. So you have about 2 weeks or so to add yourself into the directory. So mentors can start adding themselves May 2nd into the directory. And then the directory opens up for all participants May 24th, I believe.
22nd.
22nd, there it is, yeah. Yeah, and so that way it gives you about 2 weeks or so, a little bit more to, figure out your, and by the way, I mean, one of the things that I've seen people do is like, if they're available at, one time frame, like between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m., and then they have another window of time when they're available between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m., they can just make a separate entry to help people find the different time zones that they're available and at different times, so that somebody, when they're looking at the directory, might say, oh, you know, I was looking at working with this guy Antonio, but he's only available from 10 to 12 and I prefer somebody in the evening. So this way, when they're looking through the directory, they might actually find somebody who's available during the times that they are looking for. So you can create multiple entries if you wanted to, so that maybe it helps people look for you. And that goes also for, you could create an entry that says, and I think going back to just the finances, you know, some people last year, I think, offered 1 or 2 sessions at no cost. Like if you're a first time mentee, you can have 1 to 2 sessions at no cost, and then you could say, here's, you know, then after that you would pay the fee, and you could even write what the fee is in the directory for what you're offering. So that way, you know, the mentee kind of like can see the value that they're going to get out of this. And I've seen, yeah, I mean, sometimes mentors can create a little bit of a payment plan where maybe the mentee can only do it once a month and they can pay at the end of the month or something like that. And, you know, sometimes mentees like receiving payment before the session. It's something that you will, of course, be able to figure out with your mentee, and the 2 or you, or the 3 of you, however you want to mentor, you know, can figure out. And that would be another thing that you can put into your directory listing, is like, you know, you'd be willing to mentor 2, maybe, you know, 3 people at once. And that, by the way, kind of gives you, if you have 2 people there that you're mentoring at the same time, and you're the mentor and there's 2 people that you're mentoring at the same time, it gives you the ability to put them in an exercise while you also guide them through it, and give a little bit of mentoring along the way. So just, you know, you can all, if you wanted to, you could put that into there. And it might also, by the way, save people some money. You know, if it was $100 for an hour for one person, well, maybe it's, you know, it could be, you know, because it's 2 people, maybe I would say it's going to be $110, but it's split between 2 people. So they're each paying $55 each or something. And it's an hour. So again, right, you can get pretty creative with how you want to offer your mentoring to people in the course. All right. Cool. Well, we'll start wrapping up. I want to thank Kath Ann for jumping on here. I know it was last minute. And yeah, thank you to Doreen, to Tom. Thank you everybody for showing up, making the time for this. Really, if you have any other questions along the way, please reach out, and let us know. And if there's any questions that you have about the mentoring program, whether it's finances, whether it's time, any type of investment questions with it, please reach out to us also. So yeah, hopefully we're good for now. And if anything else comes up, please reach out. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Talk soon. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you.